Welcome to the deep dive, where we take the sources you've shared and really get straight to the most valuable insights.
Yeah, no wading through the extra stuff,
Yeah.
just the core knowledge you need.
And today we're diving into something really practical, building daily habits for English fluency. This is especially useful for learners, maybe around B1 to C1 levels, people who want to feel more confident and clear when they speak.
Right. Our mission today is basically to pull out the simple, powerful daily actions that these sources are recommending, the kind of things that can, genuinely transform how you learn and use English.
Okay, let's unpack this then.
So before we get into the how, maybe we should touch on the why. Why do these sources stress doing things daily so much? What's the core idea?
Yeah, it's a good point. They make a really strong case for consistency over sheer volume. The main idea seems to be that your brain learns best with small, repeated actions.
Mm-hmm. Building those pathways.
Exactly. Rather than trying to cram everything into one massive study session, say once a week.
It's that regular contact that really makes the difference, isn't it?
Totally. One source used an analogy I thought was quite good. It's like taking a shower.
Okay.
Well, one super long shower on a Sunday isn't going to keep you feeling fresh all week, right?
No, definitely not.
You need that daily contact with the language to stay, fresh and connected.
And the sources are pretty clear on this. They suggest that even just 15 or 20 minutes every day is actually more effective than, say, hitting the books for hours only once or twice a week.
Yeah, significantly more effective. And the benefits they talk about are pretty compelling, too. Daily practice helps build memory, obviously, through repetition.
Sure.
But it also builds confidence because you're actually using the language day in, day out. And it builds your speaking ability through those little wins.
Small, consistent wins.
Yeah.
It shifts English from being this, separate study subject to just being part of your life.
Okay, so we get the why. Consistency is key. What's the very first essential daily habit these sources highlight?
All right, the first one is foundational. Listen to real English. This is your input. You need to fill your brain with how the language actually sounds before you can, produce it naturally yourself.
And they make a really important point here, don't they? It's not just any English audio. They really hammer home listening to real, natural, living English.
Exactly. Not just, textbook dialogues or grammar lectures, although those might have their place sometimes.
So what counts as real English then?
Well, they give lots of examples. Things like podcasts like this one, YouTube videos, TV shows, Netflix series, vlogs, interviews, audiobooks, especially things that are story-based or conversational.
Got it. So the first key action they suggest for building this habit, it's pretty simple, actually.
Yeah, just choose content you genuinely enjoy. Don't force yourself to listen to stuff you find boring just because it's in English. Think about your hobbies, your interests, stories, conversations, specific topics.
Because if you actually like it, you're much more likely to do it every day, right? Which ties back to that consistency point.
Precisely. And the second key action is about how you listen. It's not just having it on in the background.
Right. Passive listening isn't quite enough here. It needs to be active listening.
Engaging with the material.
So what does that mean practically? What kind of techniques do they suggest for active listening?
Things like pausing and repeating phrases you hear. Maybe jotting down just one or two new expressions that jump out at you.
Okay.
Or trying to imitate the speaker's pronunciation and rhythm. That's often called shadowing.
Ah, yes. Shadowing. They mentioned a specific technique, something like 1 minute shadowing.
Yeah, exactly. The idea is you pick just one short sentence or phrase, and you try to repeat it exactly like the native speaker, focusing on the sounds, the rhythm, the intonation, how words link together.
It's like a little micro practice.
It is, and it really trains your ear and your mouth. Another one they mentioned was the word of the day idea.
How does that work?
Simple. You hear a new word you like, you write it down, and then this is the important part. You write 2 or 3 example sentences using that word. Even better if they relate to your own life.
So you're immediately putting it into context.
Right. It helps you actually remember it and know how to use it later.
It really sounds like even just a little bit of focused effort here goes a long way.
It absolutely does. The sources are pretty clear that even 10 or 15 minutes of focused listening daily can make a noticeable difference in your comprehension and even your pronunciation. It's about that quality of engagement.
Okay, so that's habit 1, actively listening to real English. But as you said, input isn't the whole story, especially for speaking. What's habit number 2?
Habit number 2, speak something out loud every single day. Even if it's just one sentence.
Ah, the speaking part. This is crucial, right? You have to use your voice. Listening and reading are great, but they don't directly build speaking fluency.
Correct. Speaking is a different muscle. You need to exercise it.
And this is often where learners feel a bit stuck, isn't it? That feeling of, well, I don't have anyone to talk to every day. Do the sources address that?
They do, quite directly. And they offer some really practical solutions that show you don't actually need a conversation partner to practice speaking daily. They suggest 4 main ways to do it, even when you're alone.
Okay, brilliant. Let's hear them. What's the first one?
The first one is simply talking to yourself.
Really? Out loud?
Out loud, yeah. It might feel a bit weird at first, but just describing what you're doing, your thoughts, your plans. Okay, I'm making some coffee now, or, what should I do next? Or, I feel pretty good today.
Like narrating your own life.
Kind of. It builds fluency and speed because you're constantly forming sentences and using everyday words without pressure.
Okay, I can see how that would work. What's the second method?
Mirror talk. So stand in front of a mirror.
Yeah.
And practice simple exchanges. Ask yourself questions, answer them. Hi, how are you? My plan for today is using body language and facial expressions helps too. It connects the words to the physical act of communicating.
Makes it feel a bit more real, maybe. Boosts confidence.
Exactly. And the third one, shadowing, comes up again here, but used specifically for speaking practice.
Right, so you're not just listening and imitating in your head, you're saying it out loud.
Precisely. You take a phrase from that podcast or video, and you repeat it out loud, really focusing on matching the speaker's rhythm, their tone, the way the words flow together.
Like practicing saying what you're doing later instead of carefully saying what are you doing later.
Exactly that. It helps you internalize those natural speech patterns.
Okay, and the fourth method. This one sometimes feels a bit awkward, but I hear it's effective.
Recording yourself. Use your phone's voice recorder. Talk about your day. Give your opinion on something you read. Describe a picture. Anything.
And then listen back.
And then listen back. Yeah, hearing your own voice can be strange, maybe even a bit uncomfortable at first. But it's incredibly valuable for spotting mistakes, noticing hesitation, and actually tracking your progress over time.
These solo methods are great because they just remove that barrier of needing someone else. The sources really seem to emphasize that doing any of these, even just for 5 or 10 minutes daily, starts building that speaking confidence pretty quickly.
You get comfortable hearing yourself speak English. That's a big step.
Okay, so we've got listening, we've got speaking. What's the third essential part of this daily routine?
The third habit is reviewing and actively building your vocabulary.
Vocabulary. But the sources stress it's not just about memorizing long random lists, right?
No, not at all. It's specifically about learning useful words and phrases, the kind of language you will actually use in conversations.
Okay. And this habit seems to have 2 parts to it.
Yeah, basically 2 parts. First, reviewing vocabulary you've already encountered. Don't just learn it and forget it.
How do they suggest reviewing?
Using tools like flashcards, maybe apps. They mention things like Anki or Quizlet, which use spaced repetition, which is very effective. Or even just writing the words down.
But again, there's a key active step here, isn't there? It's not just looking at the word.
No, you have to activate it. Say the word out loud, and crucially, use it in a full sentence. So if you learned the word frustrated, don't just look at the definition. Make a sentence like, ugh, I was so frustrated this morning because the bus was late.
Use it or lose it, basically.
That's the message, exactly. If you don't use it, you'll lose it.
Makes sense. And the second part of this habit, learning new stuff.
Right. Actively learning new words and phrases, but focusing on high-frequency language. Stuff people use all the time.
Like what?
Think common verbs get, take, make, go, the ones with loads of meanings. Phrasal verbs that are everywhere, like give up or look for. And those everyday conversational expressions.
Like I'm not sure, or it doesn't matter, or sounds good.
Exactly, those, the glue of conversation.
And what's their top technique for actually learning these new words effectively?
Always write the new word or phrase down in a full example sentence, not just the word and its definition.
So for a word like eventually.
Don't just write eventually in the end. Write something like, I didn't understand the problem at first, but eventually I figured it out.
Context is everything. It shows you how to use it. They also mentioned keeping a vocabulary journal.
Yeah, a simple notebook. Just aim for maybe 2 or 3 new words or phrases each day. Write the meaning, your example sentence, and maybe a little note on why it seems useful to you.
Making it personal.
That personal connection helps lock it in. It builds what the sources called word power vocabulary that's ready when you need it. They even gave examples like, to be honest, I'm not sure, but that makes sense. Learning chunks like these is really helpful.
Yeah, those little phrases make a huge difference in sounding more natural.
They really do. They're like conversational building blocks.
Okay, so the 3 core habits are listen actively to real English, speak something out loud daily, and review plus build useful vocabulary. How do the sources suggest putting this all together into like a daily routine?
Well, the good news is they stress it doesn't need to take hours. The recommendation is often around just 20 to 30 minutes a day total.
Oh, that sounds really manageable for most people. Very achievable. Do they suggest a way to break down that time?
Yeah, a simple structure could be something like 10 minutes dedicated to focused listening, another 10 minutes for speaking out loud using talk to yourself, mirror talk, shadowing, or recording.
Okay.
And then 10 minutes for vocabulary work, reviewing old words and learning maybe 2 or 3 new ones in sentences.
So 10, 10, and 10. But the main takeaway isn't the exact time, is it? It's the consistency.
Absolutely. It's doing something every single day. Those small, regular interactions are what build the habit, and the habit is what builds the fluency.
Right. So let's wrap up this deep dive into building English fluency based on the sources you shared with us.
Yeah, the core message from all this material seems really clear and quite empowering, actually.
Yeah.
It's basically stop waiting. Stop waiting for someday or for perfect conditions or to reach some mythical perfect level.
Just start doing these 3 things daily.
Yeah.
That's the key. Actively listen to real English. Speak something out loud, even just talking to yourself counts. And review and grow your vocabulary, focusing on useful words and putting them in sentences.
It's those small steps, even if they feel imperfect,
Yeah.
taken consistently every single day. That's what adds up to real progress over time.
It really shifts English from being this thing you study now and then
Yeah.
to something you actually live through these daily interactions.
And that's where the confidence comes from, right?
Yeah.
And that natural feel when you speak.
So maybe the final thought for everyone listening is this. If fluency really comes from that daily interaction, what's the one small achievable step that you listening right now can commit to taking today, like right after this?
Yeah. What's your starting point? Could it be just finding a 10-minute podcast episode you like? Or spending literally 1 minute talking to yourself in the mirror about your plans for tomorrow? Or writing down just one new phrase you heard today and using it in a sentence?
Find that small step. You've got this.